Right here on the
There we go.
Social Media Access Station. For more information, visit u923fm.com today.
I'm going to stand right over here out of the way.
Hello everyone, Olga show for you. This is our English part of our broadcasting today at 92.3 FM. Our show live, you can call us at 408-912-5265, 408-912-5265. You can speak Russian from 7 to 9 p.m. or if you want to speak now 6 to 7 p.m. we can do that too. And a few other languages we can pick up as well for you. We have guests today, Dave Mosby. Hello, Dave. Come, please, closer to us.
Thanks, sir.
I know we already use streaming live. You can find us Olga Show by go to ustream.com, and just search Olga Show. If you are our follower, you would receive a message, SMS or email saying that Olga Show now is on air, and not only by 92.3 FM radio waves, but also internet waves.
This is really exciting.
Yes. So that's the technology for you, and I know most likely some of you students actually were part of this technology. I would not be surprised.
So there have been students over the years who have made up much of what's going on in the studio here today.
I know, this is like exciting. This is not just radio, this is video and internet all together, and I love that.
So 15 years ago when people were talking about multimedia, this is so far beyond their expectations as to just be amazing. So
Right.
what we're doing today is just really cool.
Yes, we have communication available all over the world by simply seeing and talking to each other. So
Great.
you will be heard here in California by radio waves from Monterey, Carmel, all the way to Vallejo, Santa Rosa, through Concord, San Francisco, Palo Alto, San Jose, Half Moon Bay, all of this, like 15 million people surrounding this area. And of course, globally, whoever has internet connection by you streaming, or actually later we will be available on YouTube as well.
Great. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me here.
Yes, I'm delighted because I see you many times and many events I go. I'm lucky to meet wonderful people like you, and now let's share that opportunity with our community,
Great.
because they would be delighted to learn a lot from you, just like I did. So I know at some point you were a little boy and you dream of something. So who did you want to be in your future?
So when I was a little kid, my uncle lived in the middle of Kansas, which is, there's nothing but corn there. And I remember going out into his garage and saying, oh, he's got this really cool boat in his garage. So I then asked my mom, how do you get the boat? She said, well, he has a business of his own and he does special kinds of stuff. And that was all it took. So I became an entrepreneur at the age of 8.
All right. So did you sell the corn in his field or what?
So I then grew up building businesses, and I started when I was about 8 or 9 years old because my family was fairly poor, and so I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Well, I didn't have a guitar, so I started watering grass in my neighbors' yards when they would go on vacation, and I saved up enough money doing that when I was 9 years old to buy a guitar and learn how to play it.
Well, I mean, I guess we are lucky because we have automated sprinkler system.
Today,
Yes, and I know not every country has it, or not every city you can see automated sprinkler system.
right.
And what if it will break or battery will get out, or I don't know, but at least it's working 99.9%.
Yes, so I worked myself right out of a job.
That's what's so right now it wouldn't be that useful, but at 8 years old you made lots of money.
Well, yes, and there's lots of people out here listening to us tonight who are thinking about, they have the same kind of inventive opportunity,
Right.
and there's a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity in the world even today.
So what drove you to go to the college, or you didn't go to the college?
Well, one of the things I looked at was I wanted to be an architect. So I learned how to design buildings, and then I got to be a senior in college, and realized that no matter what I did, I couldn't draw. And so I had to go find another way to make a living, and I ended up in the IT community.
So remember that if I remember those times, you have to have a pencil. You have to
Yes.
actually cut it nicely. I done that.
Yeah, so
And
that
you
was a
have
long
to-
time ago.
And you
Yes.
have to have a certain width of the drawing on the pictures, a slim line and fat line and not so fat line and not so slim and so forth. Yeah, I
And
remember it was very difficult.
So you remember the lettering?
Yes.
Other people had to be able to read it, and my lettering always came out like crayons of a third grader, no
Okay.
matter what I did. It was very sad.
So I know it's not for everybody. If you're not precise, things that we have now software applications
Yes.
which can actually draw for you and avoid all of the headaches and poor handwriting.
Yes, it's completely changed the world.
Now I saw somewhere in your LinkedIn profile that Air Force.
Yes.
So what did you do there? Did you go to Army? Or?
Well, I was in the Air Force. I went into the military because this was the time of the Vietnam War.
Right.
And so when I decided I couldn't go be an architect, I decided to quit college. Well, if I quit college, then the Army was going to draft me, and I didn't want that to happen, so I joined the Air Force. Well, when I joined the Air Force, they gave me a bunch of tests and said, "You, my friend, can be a programmer." And I thought, oh no. So I got to be a programmer. I went to work in the military intelligence community. So for 5 or 6 years, I had access to some of the most powerful information technology that existed in the world at that time.
At that time, probably it was Fortran, Pascal, like all those sophisticated old languages. Or
Yes.
it's a secret.
Yes, so plus lots of, because I was in the military intelligence community, we had languages that nobody else knew about to be able to help us do the kind of work that we were doing. So it was a very interesting time, and it was a great opportunity to learn some new skills. And there's, even today, it doesn't matter where you live around the world, there's opportunities to get involved as a military student, I'll say. So you can learn lots of very powerful skills, and sometimes even the mechanical skills of how do I fix an airplane. So those can be the seeds from which new businesses grow up every day.
I know you could be working in airline industry. Did you try that?
Actually, airlines became customers of mine years later.
Okay. So you didn't pursue your programming skills in your life?
Oh yeah, I did. So I was after I got out of the Air Force, that's when I began to get in the software products industry, and that was in the middle 70s, and it was just a very baby industry. There were maybe a dozen software companies in all of the U.S., and I was working for 2 of them.
So you didn't have any competition? It was easier to some degree?
Yes, it was much easier then. And the impact was not nearly so great. So that was the time when there was a lot of IBM and Burroughs and Univac and Honeywell. There were mainframe systems from Europe. So Europe was a very big supplier, and I just can't remember the name of it at this point. So who was
All
that?
right.
So anyway.
Well, maybe it's will
Yeah.
come to
Probably.
you at that time. And then you started to work in software industry. Did you feel like entrepreneur at the time too, as well?
Well, so what I was doing when I was 9 years old never really went away. And so what I looked at was, how do I look for places where people have unmet needs? So anybody can look around your neighborhood and you say, well, maybe there's nobody that's going around taking trash cans in and out. But oftentimes there's possibilities that you look at information technology in particular, or even medical technology. And you have a background in biology, as I recall.
Right, yes.
So there's lots of opportunities everywhere you look You just have to have a thread of optimism and hope to be able to see, maybe I actually could do something here.
Yes, it's always an opportunity. Like any optimist, you can look into the problem as making money or solution provider, or you can just complain about it, and then of course those probably would not make money.
That's probably true. So we all have opportunities to say, who's got something that they need to have some help with? Everybody's got something.
Right, so from Kansas City you moved to, I guess, Air Force, Colorado Springs?
Well, I moved all over the country. So the United States is a fairly big country. If I think about that with Russia, it's probably about the same size.
Yes, but we have, for whatever reason, 12 time zones, and you have only 3.
It's just way spread out. So, so I've lived all over the U.S., and some years ago I settled in California because we have such absolutely fantastic weather. And not only that, it turns out, but it was more by coincidence than design, that when I moved here in the late 1970s, this was just beginning to be the hub of entrepreneurship, innovation. That was when Silicon Valley was first beginning to get some identity.
So, like from the garage, it's becoming more bigger scale? Like few garages was available?
Yes.
In terms of discovery and research and technology?
So you look around you today and what we call incubators,
Right.
business incubators, and they're everywhere. They're, Plug and Play is one, Keiretsu Forum is kind of like one, but these are places where no longer is being an entrepreneur something that's off on the edge. It has become a mainstream activity that carries with it a lot of support. There's a lot of support infrastructure that in 1980 didn't exist.
So you feel much easier, or it's more competitive now? Because now it's more opportunities, but at the same, it's becoming more competitive.
That's a great catch, because there's two things that are going on. One is that it's easier to get started. Well, the paradox is just what you just called out. It is easier to get started, but because it's easier to get started, the competitive context is far greater than it was in 1980. So when I started a business in 1980, there wasn't anybody else anywhere close, so it grew very quickly. Today, it's not at all clear that that same kind of business could grow that quickly.
So in terms of your work experience, what else, and education? Did you finish your education?
Yes.
Where did you go?
So I went to 6 different state universities and ended up with enough credits for 2 degrees and ended up with 1. So remember, I was studying in college before I went in the Air Force. I was studying to be an architect.
Right.
Well, I ended up with a degree in organizational psychology. Okay, so I've got a degree in organizational psychology, I'm making a living in technology, and I have training as an architect. That's nuts.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean,
Yes, but what that does is it brings a diversity of perspective. So I always look at things from an architectural perspective. What is the big picture that's going on? So I think about, for instance, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but one of the things that's happening in the world is while it's very easy for entrepreneurs to start businesses, it's very difficult for them to raise money when the time comes, because there's very little in place to help them figure out, how do I engage with investors in a way that they can understand what I'm saying.
so you learned that very well, and now you're helping others?
Yes. So all of those pieces have come together. So I finished up my undergraduate degree at the University of Texas. I then went on to be a product manager for a company, then started another company myself, the CEO of that company, sold that one, went on to another one. I picked up, I came into a small software company and as a VP of sales, and within a year I was the CEO, and over the next 3.5 years, we grew that from $1 million in sales to $16 million in sales. So we had very rapid growth in a very dynamic industry. But that was a publicly traded company. And so that gave me experience over 3.5 years that most people don't get in an entire career. So it was really very fortunate, but it helped me pick up executive competences that helped make a difference and helped me help entrepreneurs today.
Yeah, that's very interesting career, because from as 8 years old,
Yes.
all the way to today, you used all of your skills and life experience to now helping others as well and enjoying what you are doing. So
I'm having more fun doing what I'm doing today than I've probably had in 30 years.
So maybe you will tell us now what you're doing. I know, but my listeners and viewers not aware of this yet.
So a lot of the world has really changed in the last 10 or 12, 15 years in terms of what money and what resources are available to entrepreneurs. And this change began to shift about the time that the dot-com run-up, when there was everything was going absolutely great. There was money available for everybody, and there were independent investors who had made some money one way or another, and they were trying to make investments in new small companies. But
Right.
they kept falling on their swords, losing money faster than they could ever make it. And so there was a group that came together that was founded by a guy named Randy Williams. And Randy was the vision, he had the vision and some of the economic resources to create something that is today called the Keiretsu Forum. Well, Keiretsu is a Japanese word for interdependent enterprises. So they're not legally bound to each other, but they're socially woven together to be socially interdependent. So Keiretsu is a characterization of a number of investors. Today there are about 1,300 in 27 chapters around the world. Well, the second part of that, the forum, that means coming together to discuss stuff. So you get these interdependent investors coming together once a month to discuss opportunities that entrepreneurs show up with. Well, that's great. I got involved with that about 3 years ago. And what I discovered was less than 5% of the entrepreneurs who present to Keiretsu Forum and other forums, because there's lots of these groups around today, less than 5% of them resonate with investors. They don't know how to speak investors' language, even though they may have really terrific products. So when I discovered that is when I took on the creation of what we call today the Keiretsu Forum Academy. So we've got Keiretsu Forum, which does investments, and we've got Keiretsu Forum Academy, a separate enterprise but closely related, that prepares entrepreneurs, investors, and innovation centers to be able to tell their story in a way that resonates with others. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense for me.
So that's what we're doing.
Yes, if you want to have a progress, you have to learn.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you want to speak to higher level people, I would think that venture capitalists are higher level. They have to invest money, they have to recognize the trend, they have to basically to take bigger risk than just create a company. They're investing in the company, the money of other people in their own company. So it's a big risk to take. So you have to relate to them and be able to explain why your idea or the company could be better than anybody else.
Yes, and this is a special skill that just because of the experience that I've had over the last 100 years or so has helped equip me to be able to actually make a difference. So one of the things that's happened is graduates from our academy since September of last year, out of every one of our classes, there's been at least one, and oftentimes two people, who've said, okay, I'm really committed to this. I have now a reason to be able and the capability to go tell my story. And they have now, once every month, somebody has gone through the process and is actually in the midst of raising money today.
So how long the program lasts for the people who sign up to that academy?
So the academies Capital Access Series, which is a program. It's a 3-day program, 1 day a week for 3 weeks. It's taught by Keiretsu Forum members, so people who have domain expertise, lawyers, accountants, marketing people, salespeople, developers. What they do is they come and they teach these classes so that each one of the classes is relevant and timely. So this isn't here's how it ought to be, it's here's what's going on, here's how decisions are being made today, here's how to speak to that decision-making process.
So is it like every day, Monday through Friday, or how that's work?
Every Tuesday for 3 weeks.
Every Tuesday?
From 11:30 to 6:30. So it's a full day, but it's shifted so that the entrepreneurs can go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, get some work done, now go learn something that's going to be useful.
All right, and for about 3 months, you said?
No, it's just 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
It used to be 3 months, but that was taking too much time. And so we reformatted it, and it's been a hit ever since.
And I know that when they have a chance to present their learning experience and perform, or let's say present their idea and company in front
Yes.
of the venture capitalist, they also invite general public to see what's happening.
Frequently, those sessions are relatively open. So most of the people present to angel investor groups, and it's really important for the listeners to understand that there's a really important structural difference between the venture capitalists and angel investors. So the key difference is venture capitalists reach out to investment funds and lots of sources of cash and invest other people's money.
Right.
Angel investors are writing checks out of their own personal checkbook. So you've got different motivations at play. The venture capital people must find a home for their money. The angel investors get to find a place for the money. Does that make sense?
Right.
It's an important distinction because it drives how they look at and evaluate the opportunities that come before them. This makes it even more important for the entrepreneurs to be well skilled in how to tell their story in a way that resonates with investors.
So I guess when it's angel investment, that's probably would bring you less money.
Actually, that used to be true, but that's getting less and less the case. So there's one example of a pharmaceutical company in Austin, Texas. Came to Keiretsu Forum looking to raise $400,000 as a bridge financing. Perfectly reasonable thing to do. The members of Keiretsu Forum worldwide looked at this business opportunity and said, we think there's more here than the CEO thinks. So they ended up pushing him to go past the seed funding or the bridge funding he was looking for to go to Series A round of financing, and ended up raising about $9 million.
Wow, that's wonderful. When it's happened.
That's very unusual.
It's like
but
20, more than 20 times.
yes, so the general people who have invested in that, they put the money into that, is the general consensus is that they believe that they're going to get a 15x return in less than 4 years.
That's very interesting and successful story. So we know that growing business could be very difficult, and we can talk about the resources perhaps available to grow the businesses. What would you suggest?
So the resources that are available today are like some of the incubators, but the most important resources are the people that you meet as you're going through this process. So when you're in this 3-day program, you meet not only the investor members who give you...
You mean 3 weeks program?
The 3 weeks program. What did I say?
3 days.
Yeah, so it's 1 day a week for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So as you engage in that community, you meet some investors, and those investors are connectors into a far broader community. Perhaps even more valuable is the people that you meet that are part of your cohort, your program. Because what happens is these people begin to support each other in ways that hasn't typically happened before. And so we've now got a alumni group that's about 125, 130 people. We use social media to help them stay in touch with each other. And so when somebody's looking for a salesperson, they go first to that group and say, I'm looking for a salesperson who has these kind of capabilities. So now you've got access not just to financial resources, but you've got access to other services.
I know we will have a commercial break in the 1
Great.
minute. And for those who just joined us in, Dave Mosby with us, and quite experienced entrepreneurial spirit person, very well educated, and right now you are director, is that correct?
Yes, so I'm the executive director, essentially the CEO of the Keiretsu Forum Academy. So we're building this out to take it from the 4 Bay Area chapters to 30 chapters around the world by the end of 2015.
So you're growing tremendously.
A lot.
Because I see you working many hours. And we will come back to our interview in about a few seconds, and you can search us at Ustream, Olga Show, or 92.3 FM, that's the live radio, or you can see us later at YouTube, also under Olga Show in today's date, and Dave Mosby with us, Keiretsu Forum Executive Director, growing tremendously, helping our startup community and entrepreneurs, not only here in Bay Area, but would be in 30 other locations.
Absolutely true. Thank you.
And we will come back to that. So please listen to us. If you have any questions, 408-912-5265, 408-912-5265. Also, you can find information about me, olgashow.org, olga-show.com, and then you can send your questions through the website we have for you. Now we have a break. So